Okay, welcome to this podcast. This is the fourth podcast we've run in this series, which is helping you run a safer and more profitable food business. Subject to this podcast is preparing for a stress-free inspection. Now, if the thought of your EHO's next visit doesn't exactly fill you with glee or excitement, then you're not on your own, because we ran a survey in March of this year looking at the main causes of stress for independent caterers, and this came second in the top 10 of stresses and headaches for caterers, worrying about their EHO's next visit. If you want to know which was top, it was actually worrying about rising costs, fuel, materials, etc. Okay, so what we're saying is that it doesn't actually need to be a headache. The theme of this newsletter and the rest of the podcast is looking at how you can reduce the stress and actually get something positive from your EHO's next visit. Now, what we did for this podcast is recently interview Stephen Broadbelt, who is an EHO familiar to most of the catering businesses down in Cambridgeshire District's Council region. This is one of the guys who's instrumental in putting together the Scores on the Doors food hygiene rating system, so pretty much an ideal guy to interview. So let's hear from Steve with his initial thoughts about what happens on an inspection, what he's looking for, and the context of aiming for 5 stars.
A lot of caterers are quite worried about saying to their local EHO, something went wrong last week.
Oh no, the days of people hiding out the way in the walk-in chiller and keeping your mouth shut have gone.
Right.
We are encouraging people to be honest, because it's like writing, you know, if you've forgotten to write a week's worth of temperature records, we'll just put on the two, not taken, and the reason why and what you've done to put it right. Right. And again, in fact, if anything, you're going to get a tick, and probably more likely to get an extra star if you're putting problems that are occurring between when we inspected last and the present inspection, because ultimately it's their business, it's not my business.
Yes. Yeah.
They're responsible for the food safety, there's the food business owner.
Yes.
And they've got to demonstrate to us how they're managing food safety, and not what better way is to talk about that rat that was seen, and the pest control operator coming and finding the rat and dealing with it. You know, you're not going to get marked down for that as long as the rat's not still running around and has now got a massive family. So, you know.
But the good thing is you're encouraging honesty and openness, and
absolutely,
that's not an issue
absolutely, yes. And it's starting to become a partnership rather than us and them.
Brilliant.
Obviously, we are still custodians of the law, we still enforcers. Yes. But really, we're getting compliance by working together rather than telling people and threatening them with prosecution.
Yeah. And then you've a duty to protect consumer health.
Absolutely. In the end of the day, our responsibility is with the public. Yes. But obviously, it's great to work with the business. It makes our job a hell of a lot easier, and also removes a lot of unnecessary paperwork. So right from the word go, you can give them a plan of action. Okay. You know, sometimes it's very simple things that they can do.
Just fine tweaking the business.
Absolutely, yes. Often it's because people haven't maintained their written food safety management system. It's in a mess, or they've started it and it's just, you know, 6 months of nothing. Right. So obviously they may well get a rating of 10 for that, but obviously they're never going to get 5 stars, because 5 stars isn't scoring no more than 0 to 5 on our scoring system. And it's not just having a folder on the, you know, in the office that's gathering dust. Okay. It's got to be a living document. It's got to be current. It's got to be reviewed. And if they can prove that, then that's a third of the score that makes up the star rating system is on confidence in management and paperwork.
So thanks for that, Steve. Okay. I suppose in some ways, to sum up, there's actually 2 things that I've kind of picked out. Is first of all, if you hit 5 stars and you continue down the elite road, you're actually working very, very closely in a partnership with your local EHO. Absolutely, yes. Which is really, from a catering point of view, that's what you want. Yes. You want to work together.
It's far better. It's far better because, remember, you're building up a level of trust with your local authority. Yeah. But if anything does go wrong, it will just be a flash in the pan, and we can work with the business and the local authority, the EHO can work together to resolve an issue because past track record is so good. You know, because things do go wrong. But then, if you've got a good system in place, you should have identified the problem and dealt with it yourself, and just really letting the environmental health department know that it happened, and this is what we did to put it right.
Okay, for this final part of the interview, we went to visit one of Steve's businesses that had recently scored 5 stars, and he outlines his top 10 inspection points, so what he's really looking for when he visits a premises.
Okay, now I know everybody out there is going to be really wondering this in their head, but you're coming to see them tomorrow to do an inspection. What 10 things are you going to look at any food business?
Well, Mark, it's a bit like a customer. As we walk into premises, we're immediately starting to make judgments.
Right, okay.
Even the servery area or the restaurant area or the front of the shop, what does it look like? Is it clean? Immediately starting to build up a picture of how well, because if it's looking shabby and ropey for the customer to see, it's not often going to be any better going straight through into the kitchen area.
Okay, makes sense.
The second area, obviously when we go into a kitchen or catering establishment, we wash our hands.
Yes.
And the simple way is that A to C, they've got a wash hand basin, which is crucial.
Crucial.
And also that if they've got hot water, hot and cold water, if they haven't, could be grounds to close the place if they're actually producing food.
Right, so you look for premises first, the hand wash second, what's the third thing you'd probably do or look for?
Well, then we'd be looking at staff working. What are they doing with their hands? Are they washing their hands? What is their uniform? How clean does the place look?
Right, okay.
Looking for signs of pests.
Yeah.
Looking at equipment, is it well maintained?
Yeah.
Looking at stock control. Looking at how food is being prepped, stored, cooked.
Yep.
Is it being well wrapped? Is it being covered? Is it being labelled?
Yep.
And really looking at food from when it comes in to when it actually leaves and actually goes on someone's plate or into someone's bag.
Right, in every step of that process you'd be looking at.
And looking at how the business is managing food safety.
Right.
Particularly the critical control points.
So that's a really important one, how they manage it and critical control points.
And they can only know about their critical control points if they've actually got a written food safety management system, because that should identify critical control points, which is critical to keep food safe.
Brilliant. And what would sort of be the last 1 or 2 things you'd actually finish off with doing?
Well, actually, it will be having a wash-up meeting with the proprietor.
Right.
I like to start with things that have gone right.
Yes.
Good things. Because even a bad place,
absolutely.
hopefully a few things.
Yeah.
It's always nice to start on a positive note. This was excellent, but...
Yes.
And then you can bring in the maybe 10 or 20 things that might be wrong. But it's very important to let the proprietor know what's gone wrong, and even more importantly, how to put it right. And in so doing, they can often turn a very poor place to a very good place in very quick time, and obviously, most importantly, improve their star rating system.
That's great, isn't it? Thank you so much for all your help today. Really appreciate it.
So that's it. Your EHO visits don't have to be a headache. You know what your EHOs are going to be looking for, and if you know the main sort of inspection points, then you can be prepared. As an example, point 7 that Stephen made on his inspection top 10 list was food safety management systems and the documentation being up to date. So in readiness for the next visit, get your documentation up to date, because they're going to want to see it. I hope this has been useful, and we'll see you for the next podcast.